Hi, and thank you for watching my presentation. In it, I'm going to give an overview of the main argument of my PhD thesis, which was on celebrities acting as political representatives. My broad research interests cover the many ways that politics and entertainment intersect with each other. And when I started my PhD, all the way back in 2014, it seemed as though celebrities were constantly making headlines, either for getting involved in political campaigns, leading them, or simply making political comments. And we know from previous research that celebrity interventions like this can have an impact, whether that's through providing additional opportunities for citizens to engage with political issues or successfully spearheading changes in policy. But how does this work? We know that celebrities can and often do become influential political actors, but we know a lot less about how this happens. And that's what I was trying to investigate in my thesis. Dreesens argues that we should conceptualize celebrity as a form of capital. And what that would mean is that celebrity isn't something that you either are or are not. Instead, it becomes a resource that people can possess to varying degrees, just like economic capital or social capital. Celebrity capital is understood here as recognizability. It's a resource that you can accumulate through media representations, media attention, that you have to repeatedly accumulate, otherwise you very quickly lose this capital. And this makes sense, because if celebrity is a form of capital, then like other forms of capital, it can be exchanged to move within or between social fields. And this would account for how fame allows celebrities to do all sorts of things which are not really what they became famous for in the first place, including to make political interventions. But on its own, this idea or this concept isn't really enough. It doesn't make sense to simply think that the more famous somebody is, or the more celebrity capital they have, the greater political recognition they are automatically able to obtain. And we also know instinctively that recognizability and recognition are not exactly the same thing. Bourdieu often used the term celebrity when he talked about recognition, but recognition isn't about having a lot of people recognize you, as in know who you are. It's about being recognized as legitimate in a particular field. And while celebrities can and often do attract attention for their political campaigns or comments, the backlash against them can also be very strong. The very fame that enables celebrities to make these political interventions also sets them apart from other citizens, as does the wealth that they have often accumulated alongside their public renown. So we're very used to seeing accusations of hypocrisy levelled against celebrities and often question over what gives them the right, or more right than any other citizen, to talk about politics and be listened to. So what can sometimes give celebrities political credibility? To find out, I started following celebrities around on the internet and also occasionally in person. And this became 3 case studies that were loosely intended to compare celebrities with different personal and professional backgrounds intervening in different political contexts. So I looked at Russell Brand's attempts to amplify the voices of grassroots housing campaigners in East London, at the endorsements of 4 celebrities of the Labour Party all the way back in the 2015 general election, and I also looked at Emma Watson, who I will talk about later. So there's no time here to go into how I did all of this, but in every case study, I collected as much data as I possibly could while these events were still unfolding, so that I could see how celebrities were making these political interventions and how these were being discussed and evaluated by journalists, politicians, and citizens. And there were obviously a lot of differences between these 3 cases, but as I started to draw comparisons between them, I noticed that debates over representation really lay at the core of each of my case studies. Celebrities, to greater or lesser extent, need to justify their presence in the political field. They need to make a case for their credibility, for their right to talk about political issues or seek political platforms. And looking at how they do this, I found that celebrities are constructing claims of various kinds to speak on behalf of other people, either of ordinary citizens in general, or to speak on behalf of a specific group of citizens. Interestingly, this question of whether celebrities legitimately speak for other people, it seems to shape the response to celebrity interventions in the political field, regardless of whether that response is positive or negative, whether it's accepting or dismissive. So the main argument that I make in my thesis is that celebrities intervene in politics through what Michael Sayward defines as representative claims. Claims to represent, or to know what represents, the interests of someone or something. I argue that celebrity capital becomes politically valuable and can therefore be exchanged for political capital through acceptance of claims that the celebrity represents others. So representation is obviously something we talk about a lot in politics, but it's a core concept in celebrity studies as well. For P. David Marshall, the capacity to represent others is a key point of connection between the fields of entertainment and politics. And this connection helps to explain how these two fields have become so converged. Representation is key both to Bourdieu's conception of political capital and the political field more broadly. Political capital isn't just recognition, it's the recognition that is granted to someone from another group of people. And that's a recognition that that group can also very readily take away. So Sayward's argument that representative claims are legitimated when they are accepted is very easily reconciled with how Bourdieu describes the receipt of political capital. And it's in meshing all of these concepts together that I argue that celebrity capital can be exchanged for political capital through acceptance that the celebrity claims to speak on behalf of other people. So to give a brief example of what this looks like in practice, let's talk about Emma Watson. She remains most well known for playing Hermione Granger in the Harry Potter films, a role that she won at the age of 9, and she's still very closely associated with this role of the studious, swotty, and brave schoolgirl. This is a typecasting that she at first tried to shake off, but that she now fairly readily embraces. And of all the celebrities that I studied, she had by far and away the most celebrity capital. She was consistently able to attract attention from media outlets spanning continents and genres. She also has a very large social media following. In fact, her Instagram account is one of the 35 most followed in the world. In 2014, she became a UN Women Goodwill Ambassador, which is obviously a type of political role that we're very used to seeing celebrities taking on. But she's also supplemented this with more informal efforts to engage citizens. In 2016, she founded an online feminist book group and discussion forum called Our Shared Shelf, with the stated aim of starting a discussion with and between you all. So in my case study of Emma Watson, I decided to focus on her role in this online feminist book group and discussion forum. To look at how she made political interventions, I analysed all of her social media posts that had anything to do with feminism, also occasionally her environmental activism, her posts on the discussion forum itself, and interviews with her. And to look at how others responded to her political interventions, I collected online news content, but most importantly, I observed the message forum and conducted interviews with some of its members to understand how they feel about her and her political authority and claims to speak on their behalf. So, how does Emma Watson make claims to represent members of her feminist book group, and often in doing so, feminists more broadly? Well, I found that absolutely all celebrity representative claims, not just Emma Watson's, involve some form of positioning. How is the celebrity connected to or distant from politics? And how is the celebrity connected to or distant from ordinary people? And interestingly, Emma Watson was the only one of the celebrities I studied in my thesis to not make a kind of completely populist claim, to not position herself completely among the people and completely at odds with politics. In fact, Emma Watson didn't just make one type of representative claim, she made 3, each drawing on different elements of her vast resources. So in the first, as a connected representative, Watson draws on her role as a UN Women Goodwill Ambassador and situates her decision to start the feminist book group within the expertise that she has accumulated as a result of this elite role. She portrays her role in the group as to bring opportunities and connections to it that other members just simply wouldn't have access to without her. For example, by taking group members' questions and putting them to successful feminist authors that she can interview. But intriguingly, at the same time, she also makes claims to be an ordinary member of this book group and discussion forum, using language that positions her among other members by promising interaction with them, claiming to be reading their discussions and wanting to get involved with them. Now, clearly, these first two representative claims are completely contradictory and both run the risk of a backlash or contestation, either for highlighting Watson's elite connections and how different she is from those she claims to represent, or by promising an ordinary role that she just can't live up to in practice. It's not feasible. But Emma Watson makes an intriguing use of social media to make a third type of representative claim, performing the role of an authentic ambassador. She uses social media to perform engagement with the group from a distance, for example, by sharing selfies with the books that they are currently reading to her enormous social media followings. She's also the total master of getting broader media attention through her social media. For example, when she leaves copies of books in public places and shares photos of this on Instagram, you can guarantee that these images will be the basis for hundreds of news media stories. And curiously, in comparison to other celebrities, these are nearly always positive news media stories. But it's in how Emma Watson is evaluated by members of her book group that we can see the conditions that make celebrity representative claims most likely to be accepted. Something to note first is that all of the cases I looked at showed that the scale of celebrity capital someone possesses, or in other words, the amount of attention that they are able to attract to their political interventions, really does matter. This is because celebrity is generally seen as unserious, trivial, and possessing little inherent political value. So it's the idea that celebrities can reach wide audiences, reach those that politicians may be unable to reach, or can give voice to people who are not usually heard in the public sphere, which forms the base of much debate around celebrities' political legitimacy, whether they have it or not. Social media isn't necessary to achieving a positive outcome here, but it is a very valuable tool, because celebrities with large social media followings can make more tangible claims to represent a kind of visible group of people using their social media metrics. But there is something about Emma Watson that sets her apart, even from other people who with high celebrity capital and large social media followings. In other cases, I found that even where celebrities were accepted as political actors, people didn't want to associate too closely with them. They often qualified their support for them with phrases like, "I'm not really a fan of them, but." I found that Watson was much more broadly and openly accepted as a representative through comparisons that my interviewees made to other celebrities. So what were these comparisons based on? Well, the first takes us back to this question of proximity and distance, and in particular to Emma Watson's role at the United Nations. This came up a lot in interviews and seemed to lend Watson a legitimacy and a seriousness that other celebrities just weren't perceived to have politically. I think it's important to note that this UN role associates Emma Watson with political authority, but without associating her too closely with the politics that participants talked about disliking or feeling distant from or alienated by or marginalised by in their home countries. In other words, partisan politics. She can therefore still be seen as a viable political alternative, but an authoritative one. Someone who might actually have the ear of people who can make a difference. Class is the other thing that distinguishes Watson from other celebrities, as she is seen not only as doing the right thing on behalf of other people, but doing it in the right way. This matters because Emma Watson is seen as having earned her wealth and fame in a way that other celebrities are often not. This means that she can rapidly accumulate celebrity capital and put it to use for political purposes without being accused of attention seeking for her own benefit in order to increase her own fame and wealth. And that's a paradox of self-promotion that is a greater barrier to political legitimacy for the other celebrities that I studied. The ability to attract attention and use it to give voice to other citizens is at the very core of celebrity claims to political legitimacy. But the ability to attract attention also calls into question whether celebrities are genuinely speaking on behalf of citizens or whether they're just speaking on behalf of themselves. So that's it from me. I'm up to time. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, and I've left a couple of notes on this last slide just in case you could give me feedback on anything that might be particularly useful, but all feedback is obviously very welcome. Thanks again.